obviously you're viewing this from a C-suite at your company, right? So you have a certain mindset as to like, hey, we're going to this event, we're spending this money, we got to do this right. We need to go get results. We need to, a lot of this is not just like being cute and doing fun things.
Yep.
Like it's a scrappy way of saying we need to go accomplish something. So talk a little bit about that, because I think that's an interesting trait as either an owner or a C-suite or someone is thinking when it is your dollar, when it is the company's, when kind of, I'll say your ass is on the line, but it's essentially what's going on. So talk a little bit about like that mindset as you approach events.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're talking to the executive team and trying to get alignment with the executive team on your strategy and things that you want to do, you need to be able to speak to revenue and you need to be able to speak to reputation. Those are things that the executive team is going to care about, right? And so talking about how we're defining success and how you're going to measure success up front, and here's our strategy to execute on that. Where I would say like the encouragement we give our team, right? And what we really push our team. I'll give an example. We're going to have an event Pablo's speaking at in Amelia Island. It's in Florida. And it's like on an island in Florida, right? So you can imagine what everybody's message or themes, it's like, it's going to be island themed. There's going to be lays. There's going to, it's like we're thinking about how do we do something very different than that, right? And, for our team, hey, if we accomplish this result, what's the most efficient and effective way we can, get there to generate an ROI? But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean spend less.
Yeah.
Right. And so we don't think of expense as, what's the cheapest way to do things. When we think about resourcefulness, we think about what is the highest and best use of our resources. And it'll come against the scrutiny that'll come up that forces us to get better is not just what's the best spend we could have at events, but what's the spend at events versus other possibilities, right? And looking at it holistically. So I think we work with the team to develop and help, especially junior people, think about building a business case for their ideas, how we're going to measure it up front, and measuring against that success. But it's not just opportunities created net new at that event. There's a lot of ways to create results that lead to your goals from a revenue standpoint, your goals from a reputation standpoint at an event.
What kind of results, like rewind, say you weren't doing what you were doing, but you had the experience, you got hired by a company to come in as the head of events, and you were looking to execute, what kind of advice would you have for someone in that role to say, hey, we have 3 trade shows, 1 host event? What kind of advice would you give them on how to approach, the way to look at it? Like, how would your brain turn on that?
Yeah, I think 2 things that would help to start is, can you quickly understand the company strategy and how to align the marketing strategy and event strategy to those, right? And connect it to those. And second is, do you understand the business model well enough to understand here's the kind of justification and motion that makes sense? Because if you're a large enterprise with 6-7 figure contract value against, an SMB 3,000, ACV, there's going to be different, there's just going to be a different velocity and a different, motion, right? To working that. So understanding the context that you're in, and then, okay, great. How can we blank slate, unconstrained, think about, what are the best ways to drive things through?
I like the idea of the idea of understanding the business initiatives. I think everything has to tie back to that, right? Because the company has a direction. The company is trying to accomplish things. So for events, everybody knows if you're executing events, you know that essentially it's under scrutiny sometimes of like, what are you contributing to this? So understanding what the company is trying to accomplish, and then even in your own right, trying to tie all that back, I think is super important to be able to say, hey, you said this was important. You said this is the objectives. You said this is essentially where we're trying to go. This is contributing to it. I think that's a great point.